Hello, everybody. I am Keaton of Kinetic Catholic Ministries, back with another video. I hope that you are having an absolutely wonderful Tuesday so far. A lovely Easter season for season 14, episode 16. I'm starting to lose track, but we got it. Now, what I wanted to do today is something that I haven't done in a video. I've gotten it requested though, which is to do a tier list for Christian movies. Now, a couple of explanations. Number one, the tier list kind of website was being weird, so we have this kind of alternate looking weird thing, but it works. Number two, kind of what I decided to put on this list was ones that I've seen, because while I like to consider myself a big movie guy in terms of I like them, I just don't have time to watch a lot of movies, and so I haven't seen a ton of them. But number two, I really struggled with. I tried to find mostly Catholic movies, but it was hard because there were movies that have like Catholic elements to them, and you could consider Catholic, but they're not fully Catholic, so I didn't really want to put them on the list. And then there were also movies on here that I want to talk about that while they're not explicitly Catholic, they're still Christian, and then there's still good movies, I believe, for us to sit and watch, and kind of our overall view of them. Now, as a whole, I just want to explain, this is all my opinion and kind of my view of it, and so you're more than welcome to disagree. Let me know if I left a big movie off of here that I definitely should have seen that everybody knows about, because there's a good chance I did just forget to put one on. And then secondly, let me know what you think in the comments down below and your kind of view of these movies as a whole and where you would put them. So, guys, without further ado, let's get into it. Firstly, we have God's Not Dead 2. Now, God's Not Dead 2, out of everything on the list, in my opinion, may be my least favorite, just because I love the God's Not Dead franchise as a whole. I can kind of get why some Christian movies get kind of a bad reputation of being like too cringy or whatever. I typically don't think that out of Christian movies. God's Not Dead 2, I think, kind of leans that way. I think that the story isn't compelling enough to have for a good movie. I think the story is good. I think that it's a good message. Just overall, it's not really my cup of tea. For that reason, we're going to put it here in the D tier. But, you know, it's still a good movie. I mean, all of them are good movies. It's just not particularly one of my favorites. The next is The Star. Now, The Star, I think, is one of the most underrated movies. It's like an animated kids' Christmas film, and it's basically the narrative of Jesus' birth told from the perspective of the animals that were present, and like the talking animals. And it's really cool. Everything, it's Christian, and everything kind of goes in line with Catholic teaching as well. The only like iffy thing is there's a part where Mary experiences birth pains, and we don't know for sure if she did, because it's like Jesus, and so did she actually, and all this stuff. But that's a minuscule thing that you can look past. And otherwise, I think it's a phenomenal film. I think that it's really good to get kids like into Christmas as a whole, understand the true meaning of Christmas. Beyond that, it actually had some pretty strong celebrities and did pretty well at the box office, which you don't really expect anymore with modern society for a Christian movie. So for that, I'm going to put it at A. I think that it's that may change, but for now, I'm going to put it at A. I think that it's a great kid movie to have for the spirit of Christmas. Next is Heaven is for Real, and there are a lot of these, I call them miracle movies on there, okay? Movies about an explicit miracle that I think are really good. I think that sometimes kind of how it's told and the budget for them isn't great, but I think the overall message and the idea of the miracle is really powerful and emotional and good. And so this miracle regarding a little boy who goes to heaven and then comes back, and again, these miracles type of things, they're Christian. A lot of them are more explicitly Protestant than some of the others. In addition, they're miracles that again have not been confirmed by the Catholic Church, and so we are to take them with a grain of salt. Overall, the miracle movies, is again what I call them, are a little more Protestant heavy, and so just for that reason, and then the fact that I think some of it is not as well executed, I'll put it in B, because it's still a really good movie. I think it's still a good movie to kind of get emotional behind, and I think that's good as well. You can see the little tabs popping up everywhere all over the screen. Next is The Case for Christ. The Case for Christ, I think, is pretty good as a whole. Again, it's a little more lenient toward Protestantism. I think that God's Not Dead kind of accomplishes what The Case for Christ was trying to do, just on a little bit of a better level. And for that reason, I'm going to put The Case for Christ in the C tier, because it's still a good movie. You know, it's really hard to find one that matches that. And so everything, guys, right now is pretty well split. We don't have a certain tier leaning too heavily. I didn't really think about where I was going to put everything ahead of time. It was more just an on-the-spot, in-the-moment thing. Now, I can only imagine, this is, once again, I'll start kind of making the posters a little larger so you can see them. Guys, I think it's good. I think it's one of the better kind of miracle movies and a little bit more emotional. I'm still going to put it in the B tier, but I think that it's really, really good about a singer and kind of his journey as a whole within his relationship with his father. I think it's a very good movie. Next is Paul, the Apostle of Christ. Now this one, guys, I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit confused about. Because I watched this and I didn't personally enjoy it that much, but I don't know if I didn't enjoy it just because my expectations for what it would be was very, very different from what it was going to be, or if it's actually a good movie. And so I'm really, really just don't know. For me, I didn't enjoy it all that much because it's called Paul, the Apostle of Christ. It's not really the story of Paul. It's not about the life of Paul. It's more about, it's the early Christian church and kind of them overcoming some persecution. And so it's cool in that way. But I went into it, I think maybe wrongfully, I don't know, expecting it to be the story of the life of Paul. And it's not. And Paul the Apostle, while he's referenced, he's barely in it. And so for that reason, I'm going to fault it a little bit. I'm going to put it at C. Because, I mean, it's still a good movie. It still shows early Christianity. I don't know exactly the accuracy that it has. It was a while ago that I watched it. Next movie, now we're getting into the really, really good ones, is Unplanned. Now, I hesitated to put this in here because the overall message behind Unplanned goes beyond just a Christian movie. Like, it's more than just a Christian movie, and there were other movies kind of like it that I decided to leave off. But because it is such a good film, and I wanted to have the platform to talk about it a little more, I did an Unplanned movie review when it came out. I decided I would put it on there. Guys, Unplanned, it's genuinely, like, I think one of the best movies in regards to the pro-life movement. And for that, I'm going to put it as an A+. It's a true story of Abby Johnson and what she saw in working for Planned Parenthood and how it kind of changed her perspective completely. And so for that, it's just an objectively fantastic movie. Next is God's Not Dead. And God's Not Dead, guys, okay, so I hear the criticisms of it's cringy, it's all that stuff. For me, because it was such an important part of my childhood, it's like a classic for me. You know what I mean? Like, it'll always hold a special place in my heart. The God's Not Dead franchise as a whole will, just because I saw it so many times growing up. I loved it growing up. I couldn't get enough of it. And so, yeah, like it is a little more Protestant. I think that it does a good job as a whole of explaining kind of the value that there is in being Christian, and that overall value. On top of that, it was very, very popular, which I think was needed for the time it was released. And for that reason, I'm going to put it in the A tier, because I just really, really like the film as a whole, the message behind the film, and it was such an important part for me growing up. Next is Father Stu. I also did a Father Stu movie review when it came out. This one, again, an explicitly Catholic movie, which kind of adds to the awesomeness of it. The true story of Father Stu, played by Mark Wahlberg, which again got it garnering more popularity. And it's genuinely a very, very good film. You could argue that kind of the middle parts of it seem a little bit rushed in terms of getting through his story. But other than that, it's very, very good to show a man going from like a professional boxer, completely one lifestyle, to just turning around all the way to the other, of becoming a priest, and this whole journey there. And so Father Stu, I'm also along with Unplanned, going to put an A+. And I don't give out A+s lightly, guys. Father Stu is a very, very good movie that needs to be taken into account, and I would recommend it. Next is God's Not Dead 3, A Light in Darkness. A lot of people don't know that there's a God's Not Dead 3 movie. Apparently, again, I haven't gotten it confirmed. Apparently, there's a God's Not Dead 4. Which would be pretty neat. I do think that at some point you got to stop. Like, at some point, it gets to be so many movies that it gets to be overwhelming, and maybe you've gotten as much out of the franchise as you can. But God's Not Dead 3 is, I think, the most different from the other God's Not Dead movies. It leans really, really heavy on the dramatic side of theater. Like, it goes to a little bit of a drama show more than just a Christian movie. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. For me, I liked it. I really, really enjoyed watching it when I went to see it, and it still has a good kind of Christian message. It was just, there's a lot more dramatics, and so it's just depending on what you like and what you want. For me, I'm going to put it in the B tier, because I still think that it is better than the second God's Not Dead movie. I just wasn't a big fan of the second as a whole. But it's just so drastically different from the other two God's Not Dead movies that it's really, really hard to compare as a whole. And then next is Miracles from Heaven. Again, it's another miracle movie. It's another one about a medical situation revolving a girl. This one I think is one of the better ones. I think that it's a little bit more well put together. But again, it has that Protestant element to it that you have to take into account as Catholics when watching it. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't watch it. It just means that we have to take that into account. But I do think that it is a little bit better than the typical miracle movie. I really enjoyed it with Jennifer Garner, and I think kind of having the big name in it helps to get it more attention. Again, not confirmed miracles by the Catholic Church, but it is a cool story, and so because of that, I'll put it at number A. It's emotional, or in tier A. It's emotional. It's good. It's impactful, and I think that does it to set it up there. And guys, I think I saved the best for last. I maybe should have made a tier above A+, because the Passion of Christ is genuinely, I think, that the best depiction of Jesus Christ's passion that you could get. I forgot to put Jesus of Nazareth on here. I'm realizing that now. That's a classic. That's very, very good. It's super long. That's a super long movie. I think it's very, very good. But the Passion of Christ, Mel Gibson's The Passion of Christ, there's something to the kind of grotesqueness of it and the violence that hits you on a spiritual level deeper than I think any of these other movies, any movie that there ever is. I don't think anything can impact you as much as this movie does. This is a movie that is watched oftentimes on Good Friday, but I think which is good, but I think it's a movie that should absolutely be watched year round. Guys, I can just rave about the Passion all day long. You can kind of have your critiques here and there about some of the decisions or some of the casting or whatever you want to say, but it is undeniable that the depiction of Jesus Christ's suffering, the realness of it, right? I mean, it's a reminder that this stuff was real, that it legit happened to our Lord and Savior. It leaves you feeling different. Like it leaves you walking away from the movie with this urge to just pray. And if a movie can do that, then I think that is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And Mel Gibson, on top of that, is a Catholic, and so the creator, and so that's another plus to have regarding the Passion of Christ. And so that, again, I put it there last for a reason. I could rave about the Passion all day long, but there it goes to A+. So guys, there are my movies. They don't seem like a lot. Again, while I'm a big movie fan, I just oftentimes don't have the time to watch them. But the top three being Unplanned, Father Stew, and The Passion. Honestly, in that order from right to left, The Passion, Father Stew, and Unplanned are probably my top three kind of favorite religious movies as a whole. And then you have The Star, God's Not Dead, Miracles from Heaven, Heaven is for Real, I Can Only Imagine, God's Not Dead 3, The Case for Christ, Paul, the Apostle of Christ, and then God's Not Dead 2. So as a whole, guys, that's my tier list. I would love to see what you guys have to say, what you guys have in mind for your tier list. Maybe some movies that I left out, maybe some movies I should have included that I didn't, and some of your maybe favorite movies. Leave them in the comments down below, guys. Let's talk about it, because electronics as a whole, right, media has overcome our world just massively, and so it's good for us to be able to look at these movies, at these Christian movies, and talk about them, right? We have a form of media that is good for our Catholic faith, and acknowledge them, and then be able to talk about them. Now, with the Padre Pio movie coming up, I believe that's not out yet. I don't think it's out yet. That could be added onto here later on as well to see how that goes. So now that the topic is done, do y'all know what it is time for now? It's time for
the Saint of the Week.
And today's saint of the week is none other than the patron saint of actors, stories, theater, and therefore movies, Saint Genesius. Now, Saint Genesius has a really, really powerful, really touching story. A 3rd to 4th century saint, so very early on. He was living in the time of anti-Christian Empire Diocletian. And Diocletian was persecuting Christians and wanted to essentially eradicate the Christian faith. And so Genesius had an idea to get the empire emperor to like him, and to kind of come in a higher standing with him by writing a play that intentionally mocked Christianity. And so in writing this play, he decided that he needed to learn about Christianity in order to then prove against it, and beyond that, make fun of it through a play. And so he decided to trick the baptized Christians into thinking that he wanted to join them, and so entered to where he kind of learned about the realities of the faith. And then it was through this that he began to be drawn closer to the Savior and be very, very conflicted. He didn't like that at all. So he decided to quit. He decided to leave. He decided not be baptized, walk away from it, and do the show anyway, because he had to prove to this emperor, he had to get in a better standing, he had to make him laugh by mocking Christians. And so the whole idea of the play was that it would surround a man who wanted to be baptized, and that would be kind of the joke of it, would surround baptism. And so he does the play, and he was playing this sickly man who needed to be baptized. But when he was baptized within the play, he kind of had this moment of revelation and this moment of change within him, where he suddenly had this profession of faith and realization that what he had been doing was wrong. And he stood up, and right there in front of the emperor, he testified to the Christian faith and gave witness to Christ and the reality of that faith. And so the emperor did not like that, and had him tortured and beheaded for not renouncing his faith right there in front of everybody. But Genesius stayed strong. Through this, we're able to see the power that stories can have, right? Storytelling, whether legit, which is what, or real rather, which is what the vast majority of the movies that we looked at today were, or whether they're pretty fictionalized, right? Like The Star, right? With the talking animals. A story that can draw people closer to Christ without coming in direct contradiction with what the church holds to be true can be a beautiful thing, because it is through storytelling that our faith gets passed down, right? We have stories, both written and oral tradition, that allows us to understand the life of Jesus Christ. And Genesius, by the end of his life, was able to come and truly understand that, which I think is undoubtedly a beautiful thing. So anytime we feel like we may be struggling with the concept of the importance of stories within our Catholic faith, we can always look to St. Genesius for help. St. Genesius, pray for us. So before you guys click off this video, I'm not just a YouTuber, I'm also a Catholic speaker. So if you want to book me to come and speak at your church, school, men's group, women's group, youth group, parish, you name it, please email us directly at kineticcatholicministries@gmail.com, or go to the website kineticcattholic.com, click the contact us page, and reach out to us from there. Also, please go to the website in general. There's so many awesome things you can do on there. All my videos are up there. Your very own Kinetic Catholic shop is up there as well. Please check out all 3 of our social medias, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The link to all 3 of those will be in the description down below. Please comment any saint or topic suggestions that you might have for future videos. Please click the red subscribe button down below and the bell next to it. That way you get notified when I come out with a new video. Please share this channel video with your friends and family. Make sure that they know about Kinetic Ministries. So once again, I hope that you are having an absolutely wonderful Tuesday and a very fruitful Easter season, as we are kind of nearing the end of May, right? I know for a lot of us too, for a lot of you watching, it may be prom season, in which case, have a blessed and absolutely lovely prom. This was Keaton of Kinetic Ministries. I will see you all next week, and hi, Brielle.